strongman.
Tyson wobbles for a second.
There's that puncher's chance I had talked about.
The stage was set for an unforgettable showdown, a clash of titans that promised raw power, unrelenting ferocity, and a spectacle that would be talked about for years to come. Bob the Beast, Sapp versus Eric, Butterbean, Esch. Two larger-than-life figures, both physically and in reputation, standing at the precipice of combat, ready to impose their will on the other. The anticipation in the air was electric. Fans knew they were about to witness more than just a fight. They were about to experience a war between two men who had carved their names into the brutal world of combat sports through sheer force and unyielding determination. Each fighter, though vastly different in their approach, shared a common goal: dominance. Bob Sapp, a former NFL player turned kickboxer and mixed martial artist, was a spectacle in every sense of the word. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches and weighing over 300 pounds of sheer muscle, Sapp was a physical marvel. His imposing frame and freakish athleticism made him an immediate fan favorite and a terrifying opponent. Nicknamed the Beast, Sapp's fighting style was as ferocious as his moniker suggested. His strengths were undeniable. Sapp possessed incredible raw power. His punches were sledgehammers capable of ending fights in a single blow. His size alone was a weapon, allowing him to smother opponents with overwhelming force. Sapp's aggression often put his rivals on the defensive from the opening bell, as he charged like a rampaging bull, swinging with reckless abandon. But beneath the fearsome exterior, Sapp had his vulnerabilities. His stamina, or lack thereof, was a glaring weakness. His massive frame demanded a high oxygen intake, and once the adrenaline wore off, fatigue would set in rapidly. Skilled opponents who could weather the initial storm often found Sapp struggling to keep pace in later rounds. Additionally, his technique was sometimes wild and unrefined, raw power substituting for tactical precision. Eric Butterbean, Esch was a different beast entirely. A heavyweight boxer renowned for his devastating punching power, Butterbean was a legend in his own right. Though standing shorter at 5 feet 11 inches and weighing around 400 pounds, he was built like a tank, a rolling wall of muscle and mass. His knockout record spoke for itself, as he often ended fights in the early rounds with his signature haymakers. Butterbean's strengths lay in his hands. His punches were brutally accurate, and his counterstrikes could floor even the toughest of challengers. Despite his size, Butterbean had a surprising ability to slip punches and deliver thunderous counters. His experience in the ring gave him a level of composure that many of his adversaries lacked. He was never rushed, never panicked. However, Butterbean's weaknesses were equally present. His cardio was suspect, and his mobility was limited due to his weight. If a fight dragged on, his movement would become sluggish, his once dangerous combinations slower and more predictable. He thrived in short bursts, but the longer the fight, the more the scales tipped against him. When the fight finally began, the crowd erupted. Sapp stormed forward like a freight train, unleashing a flurry of wild punches, each one aimed to decapitate. Butterbean, ever the seasoned brawler, stood his ground, ducking and weaving as best he could, retaliating with his own powerful counters. The ring seemed almost too small to contain these two behemoths. The first round was chaos, a thunderous exchange of blows. Sapp's power was on full display as he pressed Butterbean against the ropes, raining down punches that echoed through the arena. But Butterbean absorbed the punishment, landing a few brutal body shots that momentarily slowed Sapp's rampage. As the fight wore on, the tide began to shift. Sapp's furious pace started to betray him. His breathing grew labored, his movements heavier. Butterbean, sensing the shift, began to press forward, his fists like sledgehammers aiming for Sapp's chin. For a moment, it seemed like Butterbean might pull off the upset. His experience, his calculated strikes, all pointing toward a dramatic finish. But then Sapp dug deep. Drawing from a place of pure grit, Bob Sapp summoned one last surge of fury. With a sudden burst of energy, he landed a ferocious right hook, staggering Butterbean. The crowd roared as Sapp followed up with a relentless combination, each punch fueled by a desperate need to win. Butterbean, unable to withstand the onslaught, wobbled, and with one final thunderous uppercut, he crumbled to the canvas. The referee's count was a formality. Butterbean, dazed and bloodied, couldn't rise in time. Bob Sapp's victory wasn't just about power, it was about resilience. Though his stamina remained a glaring weakness, he showed an ability to push past his limits when it mattered most. Sapp's raw aggression and overwhelming strength created an unstoppable momentum that Butterbean, despite his experience and punching accuracy, simply couldn't contain. Ultimately, it was Sapp's refusal to yield, his ability to channel his beast persona when his body begged him to quit, that secured his win. His storm-like approach overwhelmed Butterbean, who, while dangerous in the early rounds, couldn't handle the sheer ferocity of Sapp's final barrage. The fight was a testament to the unpredictable nature of combat sports, where brute strength can clash with technical skill, and heart often tips the scale. As Bob Sapp stood victorious, chest heaving and fists raised, it was clear, the beast had roared once more.